Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and a hello from lazy little Lola in my studio. Today I'm sharing another time lapse with you. This time it's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel called Archie. I hope that you enjoy seeing this come together, this speedy version here on my YouTube. If you do, please do subscribe here on YouTube and take a look about all of my other playlists. It's not all just time-lapse videos. I have lots of real-time demos and instructional videos here as well to help you get started in soft pastel. And then if you'd like even more tuition, come over to Patreon and check out my full-length tutorials there too. This piece is 18 by 14 inches and I'm using the Canson velvet paper again. This has started to become a bit of a favourite for some of my pet portraits, and although there are some issues that I have when I'm working on it, like with a lot of papers you've got some kind of pros and cons, I do love the finished outcome. I think it looks really 3D and you can create a lot of convincing depth on this paper. So I begin as always with the background, and you can see in my photo reference what a challenge I had ahead of me with this chair. So apologies that I am in and out of the footage quite a lot in this because it was so tricky to film it at the same time and to try and get myself angled nicely in front of the painting so that I could actually work on this very tricky pattern on the chair. So the first thing that I do though is I treat the chair as if there are no stripes on it. So I look at the general color of the chair and I try to create the idea of the light and shade before I start to worry about any of those stripes. So you can see that I'm trying to filter in the light, create the shadows that little Archie is casting on that side of the chair. And I really ignore all of the stripes to begin with and I just go for the flat color. Then when I start to add the stripes over the top of that, as long as I use the correct color for the stripes, so corresponding to whether they're in the light or the shade, and you can see that I use a darker brown for the stripes when I'm going over one of the shadow areas. And then I lighten the color of the stripe when I'm working on the lighter sections of the chair. But this was tricky. It honestly was. And made even trickier by the fact that I'm trying to film. So I want to get you guys as much in front of the painting as possible, but you can see here it's unusual for me to move to the other side of the painting like this, but I just had to. I had to try and angle myself into a position where I could make these lines as smoothly as possible. And you can see that I'm not using any pastel pencil for this. This is all being done as carefully as I can with the bigger pastel sticks. So it wasn't easy, but it is possible, and to be honest, the chair is not perfect. It's not really neat and tidy when you're up close. I mean, you can look at my stripes here now that we're a bit closer. They're not perfect, but if you've got the base colors in there and you've got the light and shade of the fabric, then those stripes don't actually need to be perfect. And when you step back from the whole thing, the effect really does work. So that's definitely something that I will go into a lot more detail on in the full tutorial series that will come from this piece. I will release all of this over on my Patreon channel in real time, and I'll add color codes that will pop up as I'm using different colors and let you know exactly what colors I'm using, because as is the nature of soft pastel sticks, sometimes it's difficult to see exactly what I'm using, and I talk a lot about the colors that I use. But there will also be a lot of chat about the types of marks that I'm making and especially for the background, for the chair especially, just how I try to work with those chunky pieces of pigment to make as neat a mark as I can when it came to those stripes on the chair. But as I said, it's surprising how little detail sometimes you actually need. If you really focus on your values and your colors, you can get away with a lot less detail sometimes than you would think. So I know that the soft pastel sticks can seem a little bit daunting sometimes, especially if you're used to working with the sharp points of pencils, for example. And it can seem a little bit clumsy to try and make the details with these big chunks of pigment. But honestly, it's a mixture between getting a feel for the soft pastel sticks. So over time, you do become more accurate with them. But I'm also really interested in seeing just how little detail you actually need sometimes. And that's something that I talk about a lot in my tutorials. Because, of course, I love to create detail, but sometimes you can create the illusion of something without actually painting every single hair, for example, when you're creating fur. But I eventually did get moving on to little Archie, and here I'm just working on the top half of his face. In the photo reference, you might notice that one eye is actually a little bit bigger than the other. And so I have painted it like this in his portrait at this point. But then I come back in now just to adjust the eye that's in shadow a little bit. I had a look at some other photo references of Archie, and sometimes what you see in one photo can lead you a little bit astray. So it's good actually to have a range of photographs to refer to. And sometimes just the effect of the bright light on one side of the face and the shadow on the other side, sometimes it can make one eye appear a little bit larger than the other. So in this case, I was happy that I went back and just made a few adjustments to the eye in the shadows and just made it more of a similar size to the eye on the other side. So at this point, I was happy to work on down Archie's face, building up some of the detail on his little nose and working the mouth and the muzzle area. So lots of lovely detail in this piece. A really wonderful photo reference to work from. It was right up my street. I really love a pet portrait with an interior setting, especially when it's a little dog like this. I just know that this little man is pampered and absolutely adored. And so it makes perfect sense to me that he would be up on one of the best chairs in the house. As is often the case in my house, the animals kind of take priority and get their choice of comfortable spots to sit. And so I love when that is captured in a pet portrait. I think it really adds to the story of the portrait and the memory of the little dog for years and years to come. So at this stage, I was pretty happy with his face, and I start to work on down his body. We've got the lighter coloured fur here on his chest. But again, I'm very aware of the light and shade in the reference image. We've got the main light source coming from the left side of Archie. So all of my brightest values on the white fur will be over on the left side. And then I'm using a mixture of cooler blue violets and some warm tones as well, some warm kind of fleshy tones and warm greys to create the contrast in this white fur on the chest. So as always, when I'm painting anything white, I've got to include some darker values to create the contrast. Otherwise, it can look pretty flat. And the best tip is, if you want white to look brighter, you need to adjust the colors that are surrounding it. So if you make what's around the white area darker, you're instantly going to make your whites look brighter, because there is only so bright you can actually go with pure white. So that's definitely one of the best things I have learned over the years, because I used to overuse pure white, and it used to be my most used pastel color. And now I barely use any pure white. It's all of these other light tints, and then a surprising amount of dark colors to contrast the pure white, like you can see here. So where we've got shadow, you're always going to have darker values, even when it's something that is pure white. And so I finish off the little paws, just trying to create that effect of them being slightly sunken into the chair. And of course, it's partly the wavy lines on the pattern of the chair that help to create that sunken effect. But I hope that you have enjoyed seeing little Archie come together here in time-lapse. Full version is coming out soon on my Patreon channel, and there's already a huge library of tutorials which you can browse on my website. I'll add the links in the description. But thanks very much for watching this here, and until next time, happy pasteling.